What is up, basketball fans, and welcome back to Zero Gravity, Apollo Media's NBA podcast. We did take an episode off last week, and I'll get into why that happened very shortly here. But Zero Gravity is brought to you by J Bar and Barbecue. J Bar and Barbecue is just a couple blocks away from Toyota Center down in Houston. They've got the best drinks, the best barbecue in town. Go over there to pregame your Rockets game or even watch a Rockets game over at J Bar and Barbecue. We love them. Thank you for sponsoring this episode, and shout out to Big City Wings, Houston's wing joint, Apollo's wing joint. I am your host, Tony Strankman, and I'm struggling to watch basketball at this moment in time, if you know that, because I'm a Mavericks fan, and we'll get into that. But I'm joined always by Sheldon Nord. How are we doing, bud?
I'm also struggling to watch basketball, but mostly because of homework and other life reasons. And the Rockets are kind of on the, they're crashing back down to earth. But I'm reminded every time I talk to you that really I have no room to complain about anything related to basketball woes. So,
yeah. Okay, let's just get into it. We recorded last Sunday. We had a great episode with Josh. Josh is out today, but he'll be back on the next episode this week. But Monday night. So we're nearing like March 6th was the target date for Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford to get reevaluated, see where they're at, see if they're going to come back anytime soon. So help was seemingly on the way for the Mavericks. And I'm like, Kyrie and AD, like that can get me into the play-in. They can get out of the play-in maybe. Like it's very tight. They were half a game out of being like the 6th seed last week at the beginning of the week, and they lost that game on Monday. But it was sitting in our living room, and I didn't have the NBA app downloaded on that specific Apple TV, so I was like, I need to download the Apple TV app or the NBA app and just watch it in here. I don't need to get in bed. I don't want to get in bed yet. So I download it, and it takes a couple minutes, and finally get in there, finally sign in and everything. So the game's already underway, and it's probably 4 minutes into the game. At this point, I'm like, couldn't have missed too much. They're playing the Kings. Like, we'll be fine. I know we lost to the Kings like just a couple weeks ago that I went to that game. It was brutal, but whatever. I was like, if we lose this game, it's fine. Help's on the way. Kyrie goes down with an injury like 2.5 minutes into the game. Shot free throws on the injury. Had to get helped off the court. Yeah, this is Kobe moment. And the next morning was Tuesday. I was on a call with Des and Josh, the partners of Apollo, just doing our normal staff call on Tuesdays that we always have. And I just glanced at my phone, a bunch of tweet notifications started coming in. So I was like, all right, something happened. Like, no, did a Stars trade happen? Did something happen in hockey? Like, it's a little early for basketball news at that point. It's like 9 in the morning. Kyrie has torn his ACL. So he's out for the next at least year, pretty much. He's out till February, March of next year, after All-Star break, I would assume. So then, with any hope that any Mavericks fan had, is just flushed down the toilet. Anthony Davis is now pondering whether he should play or not play the rest of the season and just be shut down.
Shut it down.
And then today, I was driving back from Alabama today, so I didn't watch the game. I haven't watched a game since, actually. Just hand up. I haven't brought myself to pick up the old round ball and watch it on TV in the last week. And they had a little afternoon game, and Dwight Powell, Brandon Williams, and Kessler Edwards all go down with injury. So they are down to maybe 7 healthy players on the roster right now. Klay Thompson's been a little hurt this season. PJ Washington has been hurt on and off the whole season. So really, they don't have 7 players healthy on this roster.
That's just dark, man.
And the best part is that they're $51,000 away from the first apron, which I don't understand the CBA, and I don't understand the aprons in any way, shape, or form. But apparently they can't go over into the first apron. Like, they can't sign anyone to go into the first apron. Like, it's too late to do that, apparently. Because they got under the first apron after the Luka trade, which is still mind-boggling that happened a month and some change ago. But yeah, so they're $51,000 away from the first apron. So, and a 10-day contract costs over $100,000 in the NBA. So they have no way to add any single player to this roster, even though they qualify for the hardship rule, where they have too many injuries, so they could sign players and go over caps and all that kind of stuff. I don't understand why they can't sign anyone with this many players out. Because let's just list them. I mean, you have Kyrie out for the season, just gone.
Yep.
AD
Coast.
hurt. Derek Lively
West.
hurt. Daniel Gafford probably not playing this season, if I had to guess, because it was his MCL and he said it's a grade 3, which means it's 6 months before he can really play basketball. So, not counting on him. So that's 4 starters and your 6 man, or 3 starters and your 6 man gone. PJ Washington's been hurt, but now you're down all of your 2-way guys. I don't know what you do with this season other than try to lose every single game and get as high odds as you can heading into the lottery. They already have 32 wins, which is not ideal for winning a lottery, but we've seen crazier things. Like the Pelicans, they won the lottery that year with Zion, and what were they, like 12th or something like that in the lottery odds, or 11th? Like they were very, very high up in
Very
the
low,
lottery.
yeah. Or high, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to say that, but yeah, maybe that's what you do. But yeah, the Mavs are dead. The Rockets fans are rejoicing everywhere. You and Josh are the 2 Rockets fans that I can look at and be like, this is like an abomination, essentially. And y'all are like, yeah, no, I don't understand it either. Like that's every other Rockets fan is like, this sucks for Dallas. That's too bad. And y'all are like, I don't know how you deal with that. I don't know what you do.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy. Like, I'm
Right.
happy
Yeah,
that
you
the
have
Mavs
that
suck.
underlying, but it's also like,
Yeah.
holy shit, how did that even happen?
Yeah, it's just like I'm sure as like for the fans, most of the fans that I've talked to that are have been rooting against Nico since the trade happened, they're like, oh, good, poetic justice, stuff like that. So they're in like weird spirits, but you
Yeah.
can tell there's like a little bit of, well, I still wish my team was good. And
Yes.
for me, it's just like, the Rockets have been bad for years in the midst of Luka taking the league by storm. And so it's nice to finally have some pretty harsh swing of events
Yeah.
to turn the tables. But yeah, man, just sucks. I'm just happy it's not me.
Yeah, you mentioned Nico, by the way. I want to list this out. So the Fire Nico
Yeah.
chants were obviously started at Mavericks games. They
Mhm.
did move on to Stars games, a hockey team in the same arena. You had a bunch.
Amazing.
We have Fire Nico chants probably at every Stars game now. I've heard that I've been to since the Four Nations break, which is good. They went to FC Dallas. So in the 77th minute of FC Dallas MLS games, they started a Fire Nico chant the last 2 weeks. So that
Nice.
was solid. That's a pretty good one too. 77th minute,
Yeah,
start chanting Fire Nico. That's pretty solid.
that's pretty tight.
Trinity FC, our women's, I think it's NWSL league that
Mhm.
plays in the Cotton Bowl. They had Fire Nico chants today, and also today at Medieval Times. If you're unfamiliar with the Dallas Medieval Times, they had a Fire Nico chant
Yeah.
going today. So
Hey.
it is spread through the town. It is incredible how many Fire Nico chants and where they're happening is very funny. The circumstances, however, are not funny in any way, shape, or form. Not having a good time, but Fire Nico nonetheless. Let's just get it over with. I don't know.
Yeah, they're not going to though. They're gonna double down.
Oh, and then Jason Kidd was definitely tampering with Kevin Durant on the court today during a timeout.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, they both put their hand over the mouth and said some words to each other and then walked off. So KD, welcome to the Mavericks this summer. Can't wait. It's gonna be so
Welcome to
exciting.
the Mavericks. Have you ever been to Medieval Times?
No, I want to just for the experience, just to say that I went. I
Yeah,
don't
let's
know
go
if I'd
road
have a
trip.
really good time. Yeah, we could do that and get a turkey leg.
That's right.
Just have a great time.
I went in high school. Okay, so when I was in high school, I went to a student council meeting because my friends were in there, and I was just hanging out after school.
Sure.
And I figured out they were going on a trip to Dallas in which they would get to go to Six Flags and do a
Yeah.
bunch of other stuff. So I was like,
Might as well.
I would like to be in student council. So I joined as a representative and went on this trip. And we went to Medieval Times with a bunch of high schoolers. And one of my friends called the waitress a wench the whole time.
Good.
And I was like, I'm not with him. We met here, but our guy won. I don't know if you know how
There
they
you go.
do it. They do like
No, I have no idea what's going on.
they have
In
like
any
all
way,
the
shape, or
knights
form.
come out.
Okay.
All the knights come out, and you're like represented by one of them in your little
Oh.
like seating area.
Section.
And our guy
Okay.
won. and I took
Sick.
a picture with him because apparently
Nice.
he's like a pro athlete to me.
Oh, okay. It's good. Glad you got to experience that. But yeah, Fire Nico is
Yeah.
just popping through the town. But it's enough about the Mavericks. We've talked about the Mavericks so much on the podcast this year
This is now a Dallas Mavericks pod.
because of all of the terrible things that have been happening to them.
Yeah.
And every time I've always talked myself into it, I'm over that. It's not happening the rest of the season. We're probably done talking about the Mavericks for the rest of the season. Unless Nico finds a way to trade Anthony Davis before the season's over, even though the trade deadline passed a month ago. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, it could still happen.
I'm sure they'll find a way. They'll find a way to
Yeah.
end up back in the news.
I hope not. It's star season. It's a hockey town. I'm not thinking about anything else. It's what's happening. Zing Zang. Zing or Zang. Zing Zang's America #1 Bloody Mary mix. We love Zing Zang on this podcast. So Zang responsibly. Go get Zing Zang wherever you get Bloody Mary mix or margarita mix. And they've got ready to drink cans of the Bloody Mary mix with alcohol and the Bloody Mary mix already in it. They've got spicy Bloody Mary mix if you're into that. America's #1 Bloody Mary mix. This is Zing or Zang. We're going to do contenders or not contenders of the top 4 teams in each conference. We're going to start it off. We'll do the West. We like the West in this podcast. We'll start off with the West, but top 4 seeds are OKC, the Los Angeles Lakers, Denver Nuggets, and Memphis Grizzlies as of right now, Sunday, March 9th at 8:57 p.m. That's what the standings are right now. So Zing or Zang. So Zing is going to be a contender. Zang is going to be not contender. We'll start off with the #1 seed, Oklahoma City Thunder. Sheldon, Nord, what do we think about OKC?
It's got to be a Zing, right? Like they don't have the playoff track record.
Yep.
They have, I think, some serious question marks outside of Shea's scoring.
Yep.
But the defense is just insane. And he will at least carry them through the first round.
They don't have to worry about PJ Washington. So
that's true. That honestly means
that means
it's
a lot,
Zing
actually.
Lock it in. Lock it in. That's a Zing. They're going all the way. No, yeah. I mean, they're like the boring one to talk about because at some point you're just nitpicking their problems. And really all you can say is J-Dub or Chet or someone is going to have to really step up once they're sending, doubles and stuff at Shea. And then do they have the pedigree, the experience, which is always kind of a dumb argument to me, or it's like super flawed because at some point everyone who wins didn't have the pedigree.
Yeah.
So, but I get it. They're saying, you got to win some rounds. And so far they've only won one, but it feels dumb to, I'm not I am a little bit of a contrarian, but not when it just is like, not for the sake of,
Yeah. No, I mean, they added Isaiah Hartenstein in the offseason, so they shored up their center position, which was a huge blemish in the playoffs. Like Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford were kind of able to do pretty much whatever they wanted, even on Chet Holmgren, who's an elite defender, like elite shot blocker. Like he had his moments. He had a lot of blocks, and I think he had 7 blocks one game last year in that series against the Mavs. And they have a lot. They have every wing defender that you could ever want pretty much on their team, which is great. They have Lou Dort, the ultimate pest that you want on your team. You hate him if he's not on your team, but he's on your team. You love him. Jalen Williams has been really good, but I think he started to regress a little bit this year. His numbers and his shooting percentages are all a little bit down from what they were last year. And maybe that's just like adding Hartenstein and not having Holmgren the whole time this season is kind of a testament to what that is. And obviously Shea is taking a bulk of the load and a bulk of the shots. And it's not a bad thing. Like every team pretty much has their #1 player. There hasn't been a team, I guess, other than Boston last year that has had like multiple players that can be your #1 option that night, like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Like Brown had the better finals out of them and him and Tatum, and that didn't necessarily just win them the series. Like they had a lot of things going on for him and a lot of things working for him. But OKC kind of seems a little bit like Boston in a way, but it's if like Tatum would be their number one guy and they wouldn't have to worry about it. That's what Shea is on OKC. So I guess there's question marks, but not necessarily. They're the deepest team, and I think that matters when it comes to the playoffs. Like a lot of the teams are going to shrink their roster to 9 or 8 players basically for the rest of the playoffs once they get into it, nitty gritty, and then OKC can still run out 10 guys pretty much. the whole playoffs. So they're going to be a little bit fresher than most people. And yeah, they're good. That's a zing for me. It's a zing with a Y. Like I just want to see them
Zingy.
kind of dismantle a team in the playoffs, like in the first round. Like I want to see them just like crush whoever the 8 seed is. If I see that, then I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm all the way in on this team. I hate them, but like I would be all the way in. Like, yeah, they're a real contender. Like they could easily win the finals.
Yeah.
But that's just one round of playoffs where because they did it last year against the Pelicans, but the Pelicans didn't have Zion, so I'm not counting that.
Yeah, it's tough. That's the thing. Is like they haven't beat another contender, but we'll see.
Yeah,
I mean, they definitely could this year. They're I brought up their defense on cleaning the glass, which are you a cleaning the glass guy?
no, I'm a not look at basketball stats guy for the rest of the season.
Fair enough.
I will look at
Well,
stats. I'll look at stats for this podcast, but I won't
yeah,
participate in it on a daily basis like I have been.
their equivalent. Well, I just brought this up for this. Their equivalent of defensive rating. Oklahoma City is number 1, obviously, with a 106.6 defensive rating per 100 possessions, and that filters out garbage time
Oh,
and stuff like that.
freaking-
Do you want to? I'll just tell you, Orlando is the next one with
mhm.
110.
Yeah,
4-point difference in defensive rating,
and
which
they
is
don't have
like
that offense.
that's a stark difference. And yeah, and their offense is let's see, the 4th best offense at 120. So you've got like an insanely, like by
It's a big
every metric,
disparity
the
there.
best defense.
Yeah,
And yeah, they're like the point differential kings right now. So plus 13.7.
and we kind of saw that with
Just
Minnesota last year. I will say because Minnesota was the
mm,
best defensive team by like defensive rating and all that kind of stuff for the last 15 years, I believe. Last year in the regular season, they were outstanding. Obviously, defensive player of the year, Rudy Gobert and Twin Towers going on there last season, but their offense just didn't have what OKC has. Like Anthony Edwards is an elite
right.
player and he's an awesome offensive guard, but he just isn't Shea Gilgeous-Alexander on the offensive end. So that
Yeah.
helps. That helps when you have Shea playing like he is right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Turns
And
out.
they have some guys who can be just like I know their shooting has like come and gone different points throughout this year, but they have some dudes who can shoot. And
Yeah,
so that's helpful too to have those release valve guys. So yeah, they just feel like the obvious zing and everyone's probably exhausted talking about them, but
for sure.
let's see
We'll
what
move
they
on.
can do.
We'll move on to the Los Angeles Lakers. Luka Doncic, LeBron James led Los Angeles Lakers. Still weird, still strange. But yesterday, LeBron went down with a groin injury. He's going to be reevaluated in 1 to 2 weeks. We'll see what happens. He is 40 years old, so him getting injured is more likely than not at this point. And him returning from injury like that 10 years ago, he'd be back after a game, or he might not even miss a game at this point. Like he was superhuman.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he's
It's
40
nuts.
now. But Lakers, I'll lead this one off. They're a zing for me because of Luka and LeBron. Like
Okay.
I understand that their roster is not impeccable. It is not well rounded. Really, they don't really have a good center. Jackson Hayes is fine. He's a good rim runner, I guess, for Luka right now, but they have spacing. Austin Reeves has been really fucking good this year. I know he was pretty good the last couple of
Yeah.
seasons, but I think he's been really good this year for him. And he's the third best
Mhm.
player on their team. He's a shot creator. Like he's got the spacing kind of element down. He's been playing with LeBron for years now, so like he understands his basketball IQ is probably shot through the roof just playing with LeBron over the last few years, just like every other player that's played with LeBron for the last 20 years. But um,
Yeah.
yeah, they're a zing only because of Luka and LeBron. If they are healthy heading into the playoffs, they can beat anyone in any given series, I believe, just because of the two like highest IQ players or two of
Yeah.
the four highest IQ players in the league right now. And we've seen what
Yeah.
Luka can do to teams in the playoffs. We've seen what LeBron can do to teams in the playoffs. And if they're healthy, and I don't even know if they need favorable matchups. Like they've beat Denver since adding Luka. They've played a lot of really good teams and they've played really well. They were like 17-3 in the last 20 games. A couple of games ago, last week at some point, they were 17-3 in their last 20. So I think just because of that firepower that they have with those two guys that they could beat anyone. It's going to be a way harder than like OKC or other teams in this league, but I think they could do it. Like it might take
Yeah.
7 games, but I think they could win those 4 out of 7 against anyone.
So you're saying Zing, they're a real contender. What would you put their title odds at? Or like what's like your comfort level percentage wise? 100% they win the championship. 0% they
That's
lose in
tough
the
because
first
the
round.
East is nuts, and they have a lot of teams that would give the Lakers a lot of fits because their defense is just
Yeah.
not good. But I think they could outscore pretty much everyone on
Yeah.
any given night. Like I don't know if they can do it every game, but they could do it every other game, and that could win you a 7-game series. So I don't know if it's 100%, but I'm in the mid 80s probably like 86% they could win a title.
Yeah.
I don't know. Luka seems happy now, which is huge because if he's
86%.
not
Yeah.
happy, then it's not going to work. And seemingly he's
Yeah.
happy. He's got a house now in LA, so it seems like he's going to stay. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just having those two players, just I'm a big Bill Simmons guy, as everyone knows, and he's
Oh.
always harping on, do you have the best player in the series? And they
Yeah.
could
They've got 2 of
arguably
them.
have 2 of the best players in every series heading into the NBA Finals. So
Yeah.
they're not the deepest team, and they are not a good defensive team, but I don't know if it really matters necessarily in the playoffs because everyone's defense is going to hunker down in the playoffs. They're going to play better defense in the playoffs, and I don't know. Those 2 players are just nuts. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think they're a zing for me. It's not super hard to give them a zing, but there are caveats to it. So I understand what's going on with the Lakers. They need an offseason to regroup and figure out what they want to put around Luka and I guess an aging LeBron. But yeah, they're a zing for me.
Yeah. I think so too. I think they're a zing for me. I'm torn. I do think the Luca trade was it February 2nd?
It happened like late on February 1st, like 11 p.m. So probably
Oh,
February
okay.
2nd Eastern time.
Let me adjust that then. So talking about the Lakers defense, and I think that was everyone's biggest question since the
Yeah.
trade. They are first in cleaning the glasses defensive metric at 108,
Oh,
108.6, which is just nuts. Because like
eh,
I didn't think that that would be the case at all. And I think Jackson Hayes has been better
fine. Yeah.
than we all thought he would be. And I think they got Vando back around that somewhere
hmm
in that timeline
Yeah.
too, or
Like the
right
first
before
week,
it.
whenever Luka came back, I think he came back like a game or 2 later.
Yeah, and so they're getting some like high energy guys, and that's like a ton of what you need defensively. Then the question is like, does that hold up against good teams in the playoffs? Like when
Yeah.
they're game planning against you, like they're going to pick out your weaknesses. They're going to target Luca. He's going to try to do that like hip extend thing to keep someone from getting around him. That's
Yep.
definitely a foul, but at the end of the day, as much as I hate when other people say it, probably because they're right, like you just got to have hoopers. And they've got 2 of the best, like one of the best, 3 best in the league. I think the best ever alongside him. And LeBron also has been like a top 10 player this season, like just quietly,
Yes.
like
Better
just
stats
so
than his
good.
2013 MVP season.
Yeah, which and you know
Offensively, he's
that
not
adjusts.
playing. He's not a depoy this year like he was in 2013. But
Right. And he's also shooting a lot more threes and
yeah,
stuff like that. But still, the league has
still
changed
nuts.
since then, but yeah, still nuts. So it's like I gotta zing him. As much as I hate it, as much as I hoped that, it would mean they fall down the standings for this year at least for the sake of my rooting interest. It's just like undeniable what having 2 of the best players in the world does for your team.
Yeah, Luca brought Tim Hardaway Jr., Spencer Dinwiddie, um, Dwight Powell, among others, to the Western Conference Finals in 2022. And you think him
Yeah.
having LeBron gives him a worse chance of making the Western Conference Finals? Like,
Yeah. I mean, we can argue about this another time, and because I don't have the matchups in front of me, but I do think they had a little bit of matchup luck to get to that Western Conference Finals. Now, whether
I
or
mean,
not
they
they
played the
win,
number 1 seed in the round 2 and beat them by
sorry,
50.
yes, that's the thing. I was like, there's something I'm forgetting.
Yeah,
Biggest
Phoenix
choke
won
job.
61 games that year, and they waxed them in
Yeah.
Game 7.
Well, and then yeah, the next year I thought showed that Phoenix just does not have the mental makeup. That's not to
Yeah,
say you guys don't beat them anyway, even if they
right.
do. But last year, if anything, it's just like, okay, he can drag some dudes as long as he's
Yeah.
got like a little bit of help. And like you said, LeBron,
Oh, did you
Austin
see
Reeves
the
playing well.
Did you see HP basketball tweeting about the run from the Mavericks last year today on Twitter?
I won't lie to you. I try not to.
No,
I
he's
try not
he's
to notice.
terrible, but he said the matchup luck last year was just like impeccable for the Mavericks. And I was like, all right, well, they were the 5 seed. So they didn't have home court advantage at any point during the playoffs. They beat
Yeah,
they beat every 51 team in the Western Conference. Like
yeah.
they beat the Clippers. I understand that Kawhi didn't play a couple of those games, and it is what it is. The next round,
Didn't
you
they
play
win the games
OKC.
he didn't play?
Yeah, Kawhi. Yeah, when he didn't play, they won those 2 games, and
Yeah,
then they lost the 4 that he did play. So maybe that's a testament to how Kawhi was playing, and they were able to target him and score on him. Whatever
sure,
it is, what it is. But they
sure.
still beat a
First
51
round.
team in the first round. Second round, they play OKC, a 61 team in the West, the number 1 overall seed. 6 games,
Yeah.
and did it in
Wait,
crunch
was it not
time
7?
when no, it was 6 games. They came back from
Okay.
17 down at halftime in game 6 and won that game. And
Oh,
then
dang, nice.
Western Conference Finals, like they beat the number 1 defense that we've seen in the last 15 years by numbers, arguably.
Whoop them.
You can't tell like in 5 games, and they probably could have won in 4. Like they probably should have won that 4th game, but it's like they had one
Yeah,
off game in 5 games, and they doxed them in game 5. Like it was a 20-point game, 30-point game. It was 30
yeah,
something, and then they all went to the bench with like 9 minutes left in the game. It was
yeah.
well
It was
over.
crazy.
And then
Yeah, so
obviously
that's more Mavs talk.
they ran into the best team. So HP basketball, I don't understand how the luck, the run of the luck there is. Like there was no luck. They just beat really good teams. And maybe those teams weren't ready for the moment. Like obviously Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns hadn't been in that moment before, and they weren't ready for it. Or Anthony Edwards talked a bunch of shit about Kyrie, and then Kyrie went off for a series. Like shit like that happens, but they earned it. And I think the Lakers, like we've seen what Luka can do with a team that doesn't have someone like LeBron, even if he's 40 years old on his team. And now he has LeBron
Yeah,
on his team. So
yeah.
just
All
makes
the
it easier for
matchup
me to
luck
pick them.
stuff is like, yeah,
It's all
there
kind
is
of
some like
stupid.
truth to that, but it's all kind of it's a results based game. So
Yeah.
it's like at the
And
end of the day, did you beat the team that was in front of you? That's what matters the most.
he brought up the Heat in 2022 as well, or 2023, whatever year they played the Nuggets in the finals. It
They
was
did.
23. And they were the 8 seed, and they beat Boston and other teams like Milwaukee. Like they beat a lot of really good teams on them. And sure, I don't know if that's luck. They just played them really well and they beat them. They were the 8 seed. They didn't have any matchup luck. They had to play the hardest teams
Yeah.
in the East. And obviously,
Th-
Giannis got hurt that first series, but someone gets hurt in the playoffs every single year. So I don't worry about
Yeah. I
playoff luck
mean,
really.
yeah, well, and then if anything, argue the year before, whenever the Heat, like I think whenever they played the Lakers in the bubble finals, I think
Yeah.
every team they played in the East had a star that was injured.
Yeah.
So
That the bubble was a weird. Yeah, the bubble's different just because everyone's locked in there and
yeah,
they had all those weird play-in games and like they played the regular season like the last 6 games or whatever, and Phoenix won all of them but still didn't make the
7 and
playoffs. And
0.
yeah, it's like yeah. All right. Lakers, they're a zing. They're a slight
Zing.
zing for you. They're a big zing for me, I think. Denver in the West. The Denver Nuggets, they have Jokic, arguably best player in the world. Put up one of the best stats that we've seen in a hot minute,
Yeah.
probably since Luka's like 73-point game or his
Yeah.
61-point triple double. Like, what do you have? 31, 21, and 20 or something like that? 22?
Yeah, something
Like,
like that. Is it first ever 30-20-20?
yeah. So, I mean, if Wilt Chamberlain hasn't done that, that's incredibly impressive. So, shout out to Jokic for doing that. But the Nuggets, what do you got, Sheldon? Zing or Zang? Contender or not contender?
The Western Conference, I think, is going to be mostly boring for me. I'm going to zing them. I think if you would have asked me a few months ago, I would have guessed that they were kind of dead in the water because they didn't have enough depth.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, the greatest player in the world dragged them out of basketball hell and has them in position to have home court advantage. Like, what is wrong with me? Like, why did I think that Nikola Jokic would not figure out a way? You and I were talking about like time of death for like them and the Bucks, and now both,
Yes.
both of
And
them are
they're
in.
both top 4 seeds now.
Yeah, because we're just like doubting these just elite,
That was
the
November
elite of the
basketball
elite
talk. We were
players.
3 weeks into the
That's
season,
right.
guys. We didn't have anything to talk about.
That's right. But man, he's just like incredible. And I got some people on Rockets Twitter mad yesterday because I might have been a little out of pocket, but Kendrick Perkins said like
No.
Nikola
Well,
Jokic is banging on the door to top 5 centers all time. And I said he's closer to top 5 all time than he is to the top 5 centers all time. Just meaning like in my eyes, he is on a trajectory to be like one of the greats, like the greats among the greats.
yeah.
Unless he has some kind of crazy injury or whatever, and people wanted to bring up defense and stuff like that. It's like, okay, don't bring up defense and then tell me about like Shaq or like all these guys who very situational, whatever. He's incredible, and the team has played a lot better lately, which is obviously huge. I mean, 20 assists, that means your team is making shots.
Yeah.
And so that's huge. I won't bet against them. I think in the fact that the bench shortens in the playoffs gives me even more hope that unless they have some kind of injury that they'll be able to compete with anybody, at least in the West.
Yeah, totally agree. And best player in the series, you have better odds to win the series. And Jokic is
Yep,
going to be the best player in the series. And I would argue pretty much every series throughout the playoffs. Like,
pretty
he's
much.
probably the best player in the world.
Yeah.
If he doesn't play that much defense, he's still a big body that you have to walk around and long arms, whatever it is. But
Big
yeah,
body.
Denver's a zing for me. So it's an easy one for me. We've spent a lot of time on the first two teams. We're going to start running through these. Memphis Grizzlies in the West. They're the 4th seed currently. They're a zang for me. I
Yeah.
just like they've got so many good pieces. Obviously, Jaren Jackson Jr. is like one of the defensive player of the year top guys right now, and John Morant's sick, but John Morant plays like he doesn't play back-to-backs. He doesn't play like 3 or 4 games in a row at this point. It's very strange. Like, oh, Jaw's playing. Okay, cool. Like, let's watch it. That's sick. It's
Yeah.
great. Love watching Jaw play
And
because he's a very fun player
he's
to
not the
watch.
same. He's not the
Mm-mm.
same either. Like he's
It's
not doing.
since he said he's not going to dunk anymore. He hadn't been the same.
Yeah. Well, and it's like even his production. So I don't know if it's like a mental thing. Like if you are going to the hoop and you're like worried about getting hurt, that's going to seriously mess up the way you're playing. And
Yeah.
so it could be like a mental thing. But yeah, definitely having a down year. And it's like no disrespect to the guy, but thought it'd be a little better. But
No,
I
he's still
hijacked it
sick.
from you. What were you saying?
Yeah, what you mentioned about like going to the hoop and then like scared about getting injured. Like, we remember Russell Westbrook. We still watch Russell Westbrook do this. He's very old now in comparison to what he was doing, and he's never once been afraid of getting hurt. Um,
Nope.
and he hasn't really gotten hurt all that often in his career. Like, he had that little dent in his cheek at one point, or his head, whatever that was in 2015, 2014. I can't remember when that was, but he like rarely gets hurt, and that's like a testament to what his body is and all that kind of stuff. But like John Morant getting hurt and now just being afraid to do what he's really good at because of the chance that he might get hurt hurts your chances in the playoffs. Because when the playoffs come, like we've seen in the NFL playoffs, like quarterbacks do not run in the regular season. They do not scramble because they're worried about getting hurt and they don't want to miss games and all that kind of stuff. But in the
Yeah.
playoffs, like Patrick Mahomes, like I think he hit his over in the Super Bowl, like over 5.5 rushes. He hit it in like the early third quarter, even though they were getting
Oh,
waxed.
nice.
But the thing is, like in the playoffs, anything goes. Like you do anything and everything to help your team. I wonder what Jaw's going to do in the playoffs. Like, is he going to be more afraid of going to the hoop because he doesn't want to get hurt for the playoffs, or is he just going to go balls to the wall and live with the result of what happens? Like, is he going to go for the dunk, or is he going to try to do a little pull up or just not go as hard? I don't know. But I just don't believe in Memphis. I think they have so many good pieces, but when your best player is afraid of doing what he's really, really good at, I'm not going to trust it. And that's where I'm at with
Yeah.
Memphis. So they're a Zang for me.
Yeah. They're a zing for me too. They were the one that the team I've been thinking about the most, just given that the Rockets are right there at 5. I'm like, hey, if this is the matchup, like I'm
You take it.
totally good with that. They're like the one team 1 through 6 that I feel like we could beat at this point. Um, but a lot of it is the John Morant stuff, like you said. Who knows who Jaren Jackson Jr. will be offensively once a series starts. Their defense has he is obviously incredible, and they have some guys who really defend well, but their defense collectively since the new year has been near the bottom of the pack. And so that's concerning. A lot of that's probably just health availability. It's a dark time to be a basketball fan with your
Yeah.
team's availability. But so, yeah, just some serious question marks. And then they are a team that, because they've gotten so much run in the playoffs the past few years, their inability to win is concerning to me. So
Yeah.
they lost to the Lakers in 22-23 in that, the Dylan Brooks moment.
Yeah.
In 7, they beat the Timberwolves in the first round the year before, and that's what Ant's
Like second year.
second season?
Yeah.
Yeah, his second year.
He was a 2020.
So yeah, and then they lost in 6 to the Warriors after they weren't they like running their mouth like something
Oh yeah, they were
heavy
like, we're not
after
afraid of the Warriors.
it was like 3-2 and they were talking all that, and then they lost in 6. And then the year before they got gentlemen swept by the Jazz.
That's
So
tough.
that's the Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell Jazz.
That's tough. I
So
watched Jalen Brunson dismantle that team by himself without Luka.
yeah, yeah. So that is abysmal. So I just like they haven't showed it to me yet, and I'm willing to be wrong, but it's a Zank
Yeah.
for me. I have like zero trust for them in the playoffs.
Totally agree. We'll move on to the East. Number 1 seed, Cleveland Cavaliers. They're on pace for close to 70 games at this point, mid 60s. Like, they're insane. They had that game against Boston. What was that, a couple weeks ago, where they were down 25-3 in the first quarter, and they came back. Just an incredible feat. Just to beat Boston in Boston is a hard feat. They don't lose at home very often, and to go down 22, 23 points in the first quarter is incredible. They even came back and made it a game, but then stole the game, essentially. Jason Tatum with the air ball at the end of the game, too, which was very funny for me. I think it did get blocked, but I'm counting it as an air ball. Yeah, Cleveland's awesome. The coach change helped everything. Them keeping Garland and Mitchell instead of trading one of them, where everyone thought one of them was going to get traded this past offseason, kept the team together. They got a decoy candidate in Evan Mobley. They've got Jared Allen, who just does incredible things night in and night out. He's like a 20-10 guy pretty much every night, which is pretty sick. Just a really good, deep, sound basketball team. And obviously, the one thing that we've been saying is like we haven't seen it in the playoffs. They beat the Magic last year in 7 games, but the Magic don't have any offense. And it was Paolo's first playoffs. And it's like, can't really hold that against them, but I can't really put it on their like record as like a good feat, essentially a playoff success. So they're a zing just because their team is so good in the regular season. I think it still translates to the playoffs. Like if they can just make threes like they have been, they're going to win a lot of series probably. So they're a zing for me.
Yeah, they've got a handful of really good kind of complementary guys that can hit threes at any time. And then DeAndre Hunter, underrated pickup for them.
Ad.
It's nice that you can just like go out and just add a 6-man to your roster.
Turns out,
great for them. Yeah, I think they're a zing. Like I want to believe. I want to believe Lind. I want them to be good. I want to see now. Like I don't know if Donovan Mitchell's efficiency issue that creeps up. I mean, he's a shooting guard, so of course it creeps up every now and then. I don't know if that's going to hurt them in the playoffs, or if it's going to be the thing that saves them and propels them into a different round. But I think Evan Mobley's ready to prove that he's better than his past couple of performances, where he's not been bad, but he's just kind of out there.
Haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah. So I'm excited. They're an easy zing, like the Thunder. They just like own good teams too. They've got like one of the best records against some of the best teams in the NBA. They score a lot of points. Their defense is fine, sometimes good. So that's probably a question.
They have 2 guards that aren't very good at defense, but when you have 2 tall guys that can peruse the paint and just make up for the mistakes of your guards, it turns out that's a pretty good method, I guess. I mean,
it works.
Seen it work in the past. So zing for me. Boston Celtics, they won the championship last year, kept the same exact team. Peyton Pritchard had 40 points the other night. Yeah, crazy. Al Horford still doing things at 90 years old. Very impressive. I can't not zing them. They won the title last year. They kept the same team. They're still an incredibly hard team to play against. They're not doing the same thing that they did last year, where they're just dog walking teams night in and night out. Their home record isn't as good as it was last year, where I feel like they never lost a home game at one point. Like they just didn't do it.
Yeah.
But same team in an Eastern Conference where there are no other proven winners. I mean, the Bucks, like obviously they won a championship in 21, but it's not the same team anymore. And if the Boston Celtics are healthy, I'm choosing them pretty much in every series in the East. So they're a zing for me.
Yeah, I think so too. They're definitely a zing for all the reasons you said. Plus, Peyton Pritchard taking it to another level is just like, hey, more
Yeah.
shooters, more creators. What can go wrong? Tatum's shot. I actually haven't followed it throughout the second half of the season, but it was looking so much better.
Yeah.
Just like
He figured out
functionally.
the Olympic funk that he was in.
Yeah. So that's huge. Jaylen Brown, I would have said as a question mark if not for last year. So he's great.
Yeah.
How can you pick against him? I think they're going to take it to another level once the playoffs start. I think
Yeah.
some
I
of this,
think it's kind of like those Golden State years where they would just kind of walk through the regular season after the 73-9 season, after they added KD. They were obviously really, really, really good and almost impossible to beat, but they lost more games with KD than they did without KD in the regular season
yeah,
that year before. But then they get to the playoffs and it's like, all right, we might have one loss in here. That's it.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that's like the LeBron thing for like those Cavs teams,
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's like, hey, we just got to get there, and they're good enough that they can have that mindset, and they'll just get there. And I
And they're
and I
still
think they
going to be
can. Yeah, they can just flip a switch because we've already seen them win. It's not like
right. They know how
some
to do
kind
it
of
now.
new energy they'll have to get. So yeah,
And they're going to have home court, except for maybe one series of Cavs make it to
yeah.
the Eastern Conference Finals. That's be the only one that they don't have home court in. And then the finals, who's to say. But yeah, easy zing for me. The New York Knicks. We've talked about them recently, their defensive struggles and what we think is wrong with it, and we don't know why it's not working, whatever. The New York Knicks, what do you think, Sheldon?
They're Zang for me because that defense, it is just not very good. Let's see. They are near the bottom of the pack here. The only teams under them that there's only like 3 or 4 teams under them that are even in the play-in range.
Hmm,
And so they're defensively, they're down there with teams that are not even going to make the playoffs, technically.
Not good.
And then offensively, obviously, they're nuts. They're
Yeah.
insane. And they've got Jalen Brunson, who can be the best player in a series, at least for a couple rounds, I think.
Mhm.
So that's huge. But I just don't trust it. I think the lack of a defensive identity is gonna really mess with them, and they'll just have to shoot the lights out every round. And maybe it happens. I'm not holding my breath for it. I think they're a Zang.
Yeah, I think getting Mitchell Robinson back was huge for him because now it's
Yeah.
if someone blows by a guard and then Mitchell Robinson's in the paint. Like I follow a lot of Knicks people. I used to work for the Knicks wall, so I'm very familiar with all those people. And I've watched a lot of Knicks games in my past. I haven't watched a lot of Knicks games this year. Watched a handful, but um, adding him to that defensive rotation has helped a lot. Just because they get into the paint, the opposing team, and they're like, "Oh, Mitchell Robinson's there, not going to shoot."
Yeah.
He is
That's
a
fair.
great shot blocker, and he helps their defense out a lot in that sense. But he's one guy, and he's not going to
Mhm.
play 35 minutes in the playoffs. He's just not. He's never been built for playing 35 plus minutes a night in a Tom Thibodeau system. That's tough. Like he wants to play
Yeah.
them 35 plus minutes a night, and his body just hasn't been able to do it, which sucks because he's a
Yeah.
fun player to watch. He's a sick alley oop guy and a great defensive center, but adding him helps a lot. However, I don't think it helps them against like Boston or Cleveland enough to get them through there. So I'm with you. It's a Zang. They got to add another something in there that just helps them defensively.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you add anything. You don't have any more picks. You traded for all the guys you wanted, and
For defenders.
yeah, like I mean, you got OG. He's a great defender, but he also injury question marks. Like, is he going to be able to play the entire playoffs? I don't know. Karl Anthony Towns, not a defender. He's not
Right.
the worst, but he's not great. But he's awesome on offense. So you take that. Mikal Bridges, good on defense, good on offense. But yeah, it's just we talked about it. We just don't know why it's not working in a Tom Thibodeau system where
Yeah.
defense has
I
always been
haven't
his thing. So
I haven't watched closely enough, to, like, be able to see why, but just all the numbers are kinda freaky, and it feels like for defense, those numbers usually translate really well,
right, yeah,
because it's just straight up production, so, yeah, I'm a little worried
I guess
about our guys up north.
yeah, sucks. I'm gonna root for them. They're my team for the rest of the season. That's gonna be how I get back into watching basketball on a nightly basis is watching the Knicks. Um, Last team that we're gonna talk about, the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo, obviously a leader of that team. Kyle Kuzma is on the Bucks now. If you forgot, I forgot
Ugh,
that until
yuck.
just now. Chris Middleton's gone. This team is so confusing, but they've been so good for a while now. Like they've been very
Yep.
good for like a couple months, like 3 months maybe. They won the in-season tournament. Not that that means literally anything, but they played a playoff type of atmosphere, a playoff light type of atmosphere, play-in type. They played a play-in
Yeah,
type of atmosphere,
there you
and
go.
they won it. So Giannis also one of those guys that could be the best player in any series. So
Yeah,
they're always going to have a fighter's chance, but I just don't believe in the rest of their roster to be able to take them past a Cavs or Boston or maybe even New York. Like I don't think New York has so many things that they could throw at Milwaukee, and they
yeah,
could throw
it's fair.
OG or Mikhail on Giannis and just be like, all right, you can get your 30, 10, and 10, but that's it. You're not getting any more than that. So, yeah, there's Zhang for me.
Yeah, same. Easy Zhang for me. The age, which I guess they got rid of a little bit with Middleton.
Yeah, and they're a
Um,
little bit older.
yeah, Lillard, just crazy defensive liability. They have some guys they can throw at the point of attack, but I just don't know how much that's going to hold up against the elite of the elite guards and stuff like that. And so Giannis will probably do something crazy. He's going to keep you in every game. But yeah, I think they win in the first round. And then once they have to play one of those top 3 teams, I think it's probably curtains, man.
Yeah, I mean, they could even win the second round, but I don't think whoever they match up with in the Eastern Conference Finals is. I think it's going to be
Yeah.
too much because they're going to have to expend so much energy in that second round series against whoever they play to just
Yeah.
win it that they might just be dead by the time they get to the Western Conference Finals. I don't know. They're still going to be a fun team to watch just because of Giannis, but I don't think they have enough to beat a Boston or Cleveland at this point, and then any team in the West that comes out. So, yeah, there's Zhang. There's Zhang for me.
They also employ Kevin Porter Jr., so
It's tough. He had a good
just
game the
another
other night.
reason to Zang.
I got a notification for some reason that he had a really good game, and I was like, "Why are we sending notifications for this?" I
Who
think it was a
cares?
real app, and I don't need this in my
Oh,
life.
come on, guys. You're better
I don't.
than that, I
It's either
think.
real or the score. I can't remember which app it was, but I remember seeing that over the last few days. But I've been a little bit out of it, so
Gross.
there's Zang for me. But shout out to Zing Zang. Zang responsibly. Go get America's #1 Bloody Mary mix wherever you get that from. Liquor store, Target, Walmart, wherever. We love Zing Zang. So Zang responsibly. America's #1 Bloody Mary mix. Thank you for sponsoring that segment of Zing or Zang. We'll be doing that pretty much I think we're going to do that on Sunday nights. That's going to be our Zing Zang segment. So
Nice.
we'll have one every Sunday, Zing or Zang. And we'll add Josh to it next week, I would assume. But yeah, zero gravity. We're talking basketball. I'm going to watch some basketball this week. I'll do it. I got four
You
four
promise?
nights four nights off from the Stars. They don't play again until Thursday, so
Oh, yeah,
I'm
you
gonna have a
gotta
lot of
find
time
something
on
to
my
do.
hands. I have a lot of time on my hands. So yeah, we'll watch some basketball this week. We'll see what happens.
Hey, March Madness right around the corner, so
I'm so
we've
down on
got
my
that.
Mississippi State Bulldogs, but I guess I'll watch Duke. I'll watch my Cooper
I was about to
Flag
say,
too.
aren't you a bandwagon Duke fan? You could do that.
Bandwagon is tough because I've been a Duke guy since JJ Redick years. So let's take it easy on that. So
I
let's calm down.
watched, as I'm sure a lot of people did. My oldest college basketball memory is watching JJ Redick break the record.
Yeah.
And there was a guy. My last name is Norrid, and there was a guy on the team with the same last name,
Yeah.
spelled one letter different, and we
Yep.
thought that was like the coolest thing. I probably thought it was way cooler than my dad, but he at least acted like it was cool for me.
Yeah, that helps.
So
Yeah,
shout out
JJ.
JJ.
I remember the "fuck you, JJ" game. I can't remember who they were playing. It was an ACC game, but the student section is just yelling "fuck you, JJ" at him. I remember that one. I think
Teenagers,
that's
man.
like my first college basketball memory. Honestly, it's like the "fuck you, JJ" series. So
That's crazy because that was like almost 20 years ago.
It was early 2000s. Yeah. Remember my
Yeah,
parents was like, yeah, you know what channel ESPN is? 206 on DirecTV as a child.
that's right.
206. Just that one and 212 NFL Network, knew that one immediately. And then all the other ESPN ones. But yeah, it was on ESPN one night. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I'll just watch Duke. And then a white guy was on TV and just balling. And I was like, he looks like me. That's cool. I like
He looks
basketball.
like me. No.
As a kid that grew up watching LeBron, Carmelo,
Ah,
and Dwayne Wade,
I
like that was my
know.
introduction to basketball. So no one looked like me. That was like actually fun to watch. And JJ Redick played for Duke, and he had brown hair and brown eyes, and I was just like, yeah, that kind of looks like me. So JJ
I'm
Redick,
just
that's my
like,
guy.
this is like your Black Panther moment.
Yeah, pretty much.
We're like,
It's a tough thing to admit, but ever since then, big Duke guy, and I understand the stereotypes that come with being a Duke supporter. So
well, now you've got yet another one in Cooper Flag. So
yeah, Cooper Flag
and
kept.
Khan.
Yeah, I mean, just a bunch of white guys. That's the Duke motto, Just get a bunch of white guys that everybody hates. Grayson
Yeah,
Allen, loved Grayson Allen. I was in college.
John
We-
Shire.
Yeah, Grayson Allen was the same grade as me, so we were freshmen in college the same year. When they won the title that year with Jaleel Okafor, big Grayson
Yeah,
Allen guy. I was like, he's the worst person of all time, and I love him so much. He was incredible.
yeah.
Yeah, big Duke
I had a
guy. So yeah,
Grayson
we'll
Allen
do.
jersey.
I guess next week is Selection Sunday. So maybe we do a little zinger zang on Selection Sunday, contender or not contender in college basketball. And I don't watch college basketball outside of Mississippi State and Duke,
This will be
so
great.
that'll be fun. That'll be a really good segment. So
Let's have some zing zang and then do the.
that'll be really good. We should definitely do that. But we'll be
Yeah.
back next week with another zinger zang segment. We'll be back later this week with another episode of Zero Gravity, presented by J Bar and Barbecue. J Bar and Barbecue is just a couple blocks away from Toyota Center. Go get the best barbecue in town in Houston. We love J Bar and Barbecue. And then we love Big City Wings. Houston's Wing Joint, Paul's Wing Joint. They've got 14 locations across the Houston area. So chances are if you're in Houston, you're near a Big City Wings. Shout out to Zing Zang for our Zinger Zang segment, America's #1 Bloody Mary mix. Go get it wherever you get your Bloody Mary or margarita mix. We'll be back very, very soon with another episode of Zero Gravity, Apollo Media's NBA podcast.